Welcome, everyone. I'm meteorologist Mike Bettis. Thanks for joining us here for our continuing Hurricane Irma coverage. And those of you watching us live in Florida right now on our Local Now app, if you have friends or family in the state, let them know they can actually watch the free Weather Channel stream on the app for iOS or Google. Let's get right to it and show you what we're talking about, bring you some of the headlines of the day today surrounding Irma. We know now at least 2 people have been killed and 2 others injured when Irma slammed the Caribbean island St. Martin this morning. Florida Governor Rick Scott activating an extra 900 National Guards members today. That will put more than 8,000 boots on the ground by Friday. Mandatory evacuations for residents in Florida's Monroe County. That kicks in at 7 o'clock tonight. And then officials urging residents there to leave earlier if they're actually able to. In Broward County, Florida, they'll start to evacuate coastal areas beginning tomorrow afternoon. And not just in Florida, they're making preparations in other locations. Governors in South Carolina and Georgia both declaring states of emergency for parts of their state ahead of Hurricane Irma. Let's update you on what we know right now with Irma. Still a Category 5 major hurricane right now. Winds have not let up in the last 24 hours. In fact, winds are still at 185 miles per hour. What can we expect in a place like, say, San Juan, Puerto Rico? 40-mile-per-hour gusts now through tomorrow morning. 75-mile-per-hour gusts through the night tonight. Rainfall up to 3 inches and storm surge here up to 6 feet, especially on the north side of Puerto Rico. So Puerto Rico sits right here. You can see where the eye is. It's actually very close to Puerto Rico right now, but it's going to go north of the island. That's a good thing in this sense, but certainly northerly winds are going to be a very big issue for us as we go through the night. Here are the stats. 185-mile-per-hour winds, now setting the Atlantic record for longest duration of that high of winds. Incredible, right? Pressure at 914 millibars, moving west-northwest at 16 miles per hour. So there has been today a little bit of a shift off to the north. Okay, just a slight shift, though, but maybe just enough to spare Puerto Rico from the absolute worst of it, the eye wall and the eye. You can see just how close that eye is now to San Juan and to the Virgin Islands. Virgin Islands hit pretty hard today, especially north side the Virgin Islands here. Just 58 miles, the eye from San Juan, the capital of Puerto Rico right now. So our conditions will get worse over the next couple of hours. Then as this passes through the night, expect conditions to improve. How about the gusts that we're seeing right now? In San Juan, gusts to 56 miles per hour. In a buoy a little bit closer to the eye, winds at 43. But you can see the farther you get away from the eye, the winds are significantly lower, 17 here, then over towards, say, Maguey's Islands here, only 21-mile-per-hour gusts. We have flash flood warnings in effect. A lot of rain is going to happen for us here, okay? And here's the model depiction. Right now, it's got a pretty good track on this. Then you can see the track goes north of the Dominican Republic and Haiti, then impacting by tomorrow night. We think the southern Bahamas here, Turks and Caicos, could be getting hit as well. And then by Friday, sliding just north of Cuba by this model depiction. Maybe the eye becoming slightly more ragged. Could we be potentially looking at a little bit of weakening? We hope so, considering that track gets very, very close then to mainland United States. A lot of rain with this for sure. There are some areas here where we could see upwards of 2 feet of rain. Flooding is likely to happen for many locations because of this. And there's a look at your forecast track. A lot of confidence, we think, short term here, especially the next 2 days. After that, the cone gets a lot wider. But you can see that the United States is squarely within that cone. Let's bring in now our senior hurricane specialist, Brian Norcross, for a little bit more on this. We know that this is, obviously, Brian, a really ominous hurricane. It hasn't weakened at all here in the last 24 hours, and there has been some shift in the models here, but this is just a tough go here now through the next landfall.
I think this is the biggest hurricane threat to Florida in decades, bigger than Hurricane Andrew.
Right.
This is a bigger threat than Hurricane Andrew. I want to emphasize that because this storm is bigger. It's bigger than the whole state of Florida. So this is more reminiscent of the great hurricanes you can read about in the history book. I'm thinking of Hurricane Donna in 1960 that went over the Keys and decimated the Keys, the Middle Keys, and then went up the entire state of Florida, causing damage all the way. So this is an extremely serious situation. And just to emphasize these numbers that are just off the charts, the 914 millibars down there, deeper, bigger than Hurricane Andrew. 185-mile-an-hour winds, of course. Now, we don't expect it to necessarily maintain that all the way to the state of Florida, but the atmosphere looks extremely prime for a very strong hurricane to affect Florida. And I keep saying Florida. I know all my friends in Miami are thinking, what about Miami? Well, Miami is squarely in this, but the thing is we can't rule out any major city in Florida at this point, and I'll explain all those models to you in a second. But look at the strength of the winds forecast by the National Hurricane Center, up at the top end of Category 4. So Category 4 or Category 5 in the Bahamas, Category 4, maybe Category 5 in Florida. We can't say, but in other words, a fierce, fierce hurricane is heading toward the state of Florida. Now, we have updates on this. I'm showing you this, even though it's not quite right. The hurricane watches have been extended to the northwestern Bahamas. Warnings now for the central and southeastern Bahamas. So no watches yet for Florida. Expect that tomorrow morning, hurricane watches for the southeast coast and Florida at the latest. So here's the timing. The idea of this is when all preparations should be done, because this is the soonest that we think that the 40-mile-an-hour winds would arrive. So you see that overnight, Friday night, is the time period where they get to southeast Florida. So at the very latest, we expect to see the hurricane watches maybe tonight, but certainly in the morning. Now, here's the model. Here's the big discussion. Everybody's looking at the models, right? Here's the deal on the models. Watch the two models, and they're very good agreement, and I want to go through time here. So you see, here we are, 6 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. Very good agreement here, and the winds are already blowing in South Florida across the entire state. Notice, not just in Miami, not just in the Keys, but even over on the southwest coast, because you see where the tight lines are. And then we're at 6 a.m., and the center is approaching the bottom of the state of Florida, and then look, it accelerates during the day on Sunday. So don't look at exactly where the dot is. The dot could be over here, right? We're just not too sure about that, and I want to prove that to you.
Minutes runtime to clean anywhere, anytime,